Heyo, CC here. Sorry this took longer than usual to do. I was spending so much time focusing on getting my strange rejuvenator to British, which I successfully accomplished on January 28th of this year. 1.5 years of faster healing and knockback immunity, and it was worth it. Also, because I wanted to make new talking images for these videos. Now that my goal has been accomplished, I can just relax a bit, play some other classes, and most importantly, work on typical opinions again. Anyways, let me start off by asking you a question. What comes to mind when you hear the word minigun? Powerful? High DPS? A close range menace perhaps? All those are definitely true. However, there's one thing that all miniguns tend to be, and that is slow. They're slow when moving, even slower when revved up and firing. So as powerful as a minigun can be, its slowness holds it back a bit. But what if it wasn't? This is the Maxine, a minigun that takes the slowness that the minigun has and chucks it out the window, because this thing is a mobile menace. Your enemies are grass and this is the lawn. It changes the way you play to be a lot more aggressive as the slowest class in the game. If not taken care of, this can and will be the biggest threat in the match. The way it's able to do this so effectively is with its stats. The Maxine is a primary weapon for Groot. It's a TCU2 original and has no TF2 counterpart. For its upsides, when revved up, you move 40% faster than your normal rev speed. But that's not all. You also get an extra 30% movement speed once you start firing, which makes you both powerful and more mobile. It does have a few downsides though for a mobility-based weapon. First, your max ammo is reduced by 25%, so you have 150 instead of 200. Second, you can't get ammo from dispensers while it's active, so you can't just stick around in one place for a long time without getting ammo. Lastly, the biggest downside this weapon has is ammo drain. When revved up, you lose 5 ammo per second, so without firing you can only be revved up for 30 seconds. While firing, this is reduced down to about 10. So basically, you move fast, but you lose ammo fast too. On paper, this seems pretty interesting. A fast-moving minigun that allows you to be more aggressive, but can't stay in a fight for as long as other brute primaries because it'll run out of ammo much quicker than they do. But in execution, it's not really that balanced out. Especially when you consider the fact that every time someone dies, they drop a medium ammo pack which restores half of your max/reserve ammo, which in the case of the Maxine adds on an effective 15 seconds of uptime, so it's easy to become a huge threat to the opposing team, even without a doctor on you. For me, I know it's going to be tough when I see or hear an enemy Maxine because that means there's a good chance we're gonna die in seconds, even if we are prepared for it, which in my case as a doc main is a bit rare without the presence of other high levels on my team. And if the Maxine has a doc on them, yeah, no, that requires a little bit of focusing to take out. Personally, I like using more aggressive weapons for classes if the regular ones just aren't doing the trick for the situation I'm in. If a normal rocket launcher doesn't work, I bring out the direct hit for more damage. If long-range sniping isn't doing it for me, then I switch to the Huntsman, or the Poacher's Pride, and get out there on the front lines. The Maxine falls within that same boat, but does so in a way that isn't exactly fair for the opposing team, as the other weapons have downsides that properly balance out the upsides, such as a smaller blast radius or less effective range. No other brute primary feels this unbalanced to fight against. Tommy Sloth fires slower, the first responder hurts the user and prevents them from being healed, Biker Splits can barely move, and the M249 needs to reload and has low DPS compared to the other primaries. When playing it myself, when doing contracts or just messing around with weapons I don't use often out of boredom, it does feel as powerful as people make it out to be, and Brute's in my bottom 3 in terms of playtime. Sure, it definitely is satisfying mowing down enemies one by one, but is it fair? No, not really, even for Brute. Also, I'm not quite sure if it's just me, but when compared to taking damage from other miniguns, it feels like the Maxine kills much faster, despite having no changes to its firing speed. But that's probably because of ramp up being more present with something that allows you to move closer to the enemy faster than usual. Now I know it's much easier to keep away and try to pick them off from a distance with explosive weapons or a sniper rifle, but Brute takes a bit of time to take down with multiple rockets or pipes, even at close range considering the firing speed of rocket and grenade launchers. The Maxine, or pretty much any other minigun, can take either of them out before they can deal enough damage to kill them, or at least trade without any sort of crit boost or damage resistance. That's not even adding in the factor of a doctor that's healing the Maxine. It's pretty common for a doctor to focus their healing on the Brute more than any other class because, well, a Brute is a doc's best friend. They provide the most protection as well as on-demand healing with lunchbox items, so it makes sense for doctors to want to stick around them, especially if they're using either the Vaccinator or the Kritzkrieg, as those two miniguns allow the Brute to rip and tear through enemies with ease. If you're having trouble dealing with the Maxine Brute, there are ways you can effectively take them out. The most effective way to do so is with your team. Brutes don't do too well when being swarmed from multiple angles due to their low speed and miniguns usually being a single target weapon. There are some specific things you can do to help out even more, depending on your class. For Flanker, Arsonist, and Agent, don't try to take them head on. Instead, wait for an opportunity to attack from an angle that the Brute is not looking at, usually behind them. Additionally, weapons like the Mad Milk, Wooden Sword, and Spy Camera can aid your team as well. Trooper and Annihilator's explosives can help wear them down from a distance. The previously mentioned direct hit is a good choice due to its higher damage. As for Annie, just make sure you land your shots, as 3 pills will take them out. The Ultimatum, while weaker than the others in terms of damage, can still be helpful because mini-crit damage is no joke, especially since it negates fall-off, which is scary on hit scan weapons. Brutes on your team should wait for an opportunity to get their minigun revved up before the Maxine can, so that by the time you two start firing at each other, you'll be doing your minigun's highest possible DPS sooner. If using the M249, which doesn't need to be revved up, then just catch them off guard when they aren't firing or when they stop firing, as they need about a second to start firing again. For mechanic, it depends on your playstyle. If playing normally, there's a good chance the Maxine will focus on your sentry first, so try shooting at him from a different angle to add on to the damage that your sentry is already dealing. Unless you're using the regular, which in that case just stand back and let him have it. For battle mechanics, you can pretty much do the same thing as Flanker, Arson, and Agents, just with a little bit of extra damage with a mini sentry. Doctors should prioritize healing the person the Maxine is currently attacking, so that they can at least delay their death. If you have a charge ready and are afraid that you might die, don't be afraid to use it. Remember, pop it, don't drop it. Your life is way more important than any other class because of your charge. Lastly, marksmen have the easiest time taking out brutes due to the high damage and range that their sniper rifles have. So stay back behind cover and aim for the brain. There is one thing you should prioritize above what I previously mentioned, regardless of your class. If the Maxine is being pocketed by a doctor, especially if there's more than one, or they're using the Vaccinator or the Kritzkrieg, I cannot stress this enough, take them out first, even if you die in the process. Doctor is the weakest when it comes to fighting by themselves, so if you prevent the doctor from using their charge, then you prevent the Maxine from being a huge problem, as you instantly stop their main source of healing, which makes killing them way easier. Now, I've been told before that the Maxine is fine as is by some people, but personally, I don't think so. This thing could use a little bit more balancing. Not much, but just something to make its playstyle stand out a bit more, and I have a few ideas of what could work. First thing, slap a damage penalty on it. I'm not quite sure how much is appropriate when it comes to miniguns specifically, but I think somewhere between 10 and 15% should be fine. Second, this is something that will be pretty interesting to see play out. But have a passive stat so that on kill, enemies drop a small ammo pack instead of the usual medium. Less ammo means less uptime. They can still go on a streak if they keep killing a lot of people, but not nearly as much as they do now. An alternative to this would be to do a Eureka effect and have it gain less ammo from ammo packs. Basically, I want to have the downside of reduced uptime that it's supposed to have to actually mean something to the user and not just an inconvenience. But with that, that's all I gotta say about the Maxine. Let me know what you think of this weapon in the comments. Also, just as a heads up, there's one more thing I want to personally talk about, which will be the next episode. But after that, I'll be taking a look at all the suggestions that you have left for me, both in the comments and in the Discord, which you can join using the link in the description. What I'm thinking about with those is that I could put them on a wheel and have it choose which one I work on next, or I could pick a few and do a poll and see what you all think I should do. But until then, thanks for watching this episode of Typical Opinions.